Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Herrera here. I hope that you are all doing well. In the middle of some crazy fangirling over Love Goes, let's stop a moment and watch this. This is what nobody understands about Ken of SB19.
Sino ang pinaka-spoiled sa grupo?
Oh really?
Sino ang makakalimutan? Hindi mong patapos na, nagkamali pa siya. Bakit na lang Ken? Bakit si Ken? Bakit si Ken?
Please stop it.
Oh no.
Ken is, in my opinion, the most successful idol in P-pop history. Most fans see him as someone who's living the life most of us can only dream of. But in reality, there's a lot more going on behind all the glitz and glamour. So in today's video, we will reveal the challenges he had to go through just to get where he is today. From being a scrawny kid who only ate instant noodles on his birthdays to becoming the CEO of his own company. I know, Ken's story is like a definition of rags to riches. And the haters are not having it. He quickly became one of the most polarizing figures in the P-pop industry. But before we talk about all that, let's talk about his humble beginnings because it's straight up inspiring.
He's such a wild card. Oh. No crying, please. I am not crying today.
It all started in Pagadian, Zamboanga del Sur. This is the countryside where Felipe John Suson was raised. His mom wanted to name him Kenji, but his grandpa Felipe insisted to name him Philip. He was the youngest member of a family that barely had anything financially. They were very poor that instead of a cake on his birthday, all he gets is a plate of instant noodles. Life was so hard that having fried chicken was heaven for him, so it quickly became his all-time favorite. Because of this, both of his parents had to go overseas to find better paying jobs to support the education of Ken and his older sister. He had to be taken under the care of his grandparents.
Right,
He then
okay, that
grew
makes
up in a
sense.
church and his grandpa was the pastor. He was just a scrawny kid who likes mathematics and discovered drawing as his first talent. So he went on to become an editorial cartoonist in school.
Cartoonist.
Family gatherings in the Philippines always require a karaoke machine. And Kent's extended family wasn't a stranger to that. He used to hide during these occasions because he was always asked to sing.
Oh.
I was told by some sources that Ken had a very good singing voice as a kid but lost his confidence when puberty hit because it gave him an ultra deep voice which turned out to become one of his greatest assets in the future
I've
because of
always
the
wondered
dude named
about this.
Pablo.
I never thought na may mga tao talaga makapag-appreciate ng
I'm sorry,
voice.
what?
Kasi hindi ako ganun ka confident sa voice ko kasi
Pablo,
yung
I
range ko
love you.
mababa lang tapos malalim yung boses ko. Ngayon, parang naging na-appreciate ko na yung boses ko dahil may mga tao na ka-appreciate na.
Nice.
Anyway, his newfound love for music got him to learn his first musical instrument without anyone teaching him. So he ended up becoming a southpaw guitarist but later fixed it as he learned more. He was also active in sports representing his school in regional tournaments. He played some table tennis and sepak takraw as a spiker. For those who don't know, this position requires exceptional skills to perform explosive jumps to block and spike the ball. The teacher saw this as a potential that can translate into good dancing, so he was offered to join the dance club for better grades. He was hesitant at first, but when he tried, y'all know what happened next. Watching his early clips feels like he was born to dance. He was even hired by his school to choreograph some dance routines. He then moved to Cagayan de Oro to study architecture in college. He became a member of the dance crews called Excite, GA7, and Amigo 7. His last two crews were so good, in fact, Ken had a crewmate named Joshua who went on to become a member of a successful international idol group in the future called Z-Boys. They were beating everybody in the countryside, so there was no point in competing there anymore. It was time for the big leagues. They got invited to join major K-pop dance competitions, and this was the first time when Ken met other SB19 would-be members. Not as brothers, but as enemies. In one particular contest, Josh and Stel's crew defeated Ken's because they already had a GOAT status in the industry at the time. Ken accepted defeat gracefully and even asked to be trained by Josh, which actually surprised him because he thought Ken was a show-off.
Kinausap niya po ako eh. Sabi niya sa akin, Idol Josh, Idol Josh. Ganun po tawag niya sa akin yun, Idol Josh. Pasali naman ako sa ano nyo. Pa-training naman ako sa grupo nyo. Kahit sa gilid lang ako.
But because of their distance, the training together never happened. Ken then went home to continue his studies. Fast forward to 2017, he received a message from Josh. It was an invite to audition for the 5th member spot of SB19. But there's one problem. Ken had no money, so Josh was like, no problem, I'll take care of it. Ken then told his grandma
That's
about
just the
stopping
most
school to
gorgeous thing
pursue
I've
it,
ever
and
heard.
she was very hesitant because she thought it was a scam, and his parents overseas would have automatically said no. But Ken was so close to his grandma that he managed to convince her to go in secret. So our country boy took off to pursue his dreams. He had
See how
nothing with
these
him
opportunities
except his
keep
phone,
coming up throughout their
his
lives.
clothes, and a 1,500 peso pocket money. This time when he arrived at the airport, there was no crew. It was all him.
Just him.
So imagine how
pressure
that
is
must
on.
have felt. Anyway, he took a taxi to SBT Talent Camp and of course, the driver scammed him. He had to pay
What?
600 pesos for a supposedly 150 peso trip. What a ripoff. Anyway, he finally met Josh and the boys and started training with them for a year while crashing into
Wow.
a distant relative's house to rest up. He slept on the floor, not with a comforter, but a banig. Because if he didn't, he would be homeless. Ken had no salary when he was still training, so he moonlighted as a small-time model to survive. Which is an experience that would
Gosh.
play a big role in his future. The dude was literally
He'd be a
fighting for
great
his
model
dreams
though.
every single day. So here comes 2018 when they finally debuted, and though it was a rocky start, they gradually progressed to become the greatest P-pop group God has ever created. If you want to know more about their story as a group, check out the SB19 story series I made, linked down in the description. You can also join the highest tier of our channel's membership if you're interested to be credited as one of the executive producers. So how did Ken become the most polarizing P-pop idol? Like, how is he either obsessively loved by fans or obsessively hated by bashers?
Jealousy.
Well, he has this persona of a badass dude who doesn't
He
give
really
a shit.
does.
And
It's
if
just
you
that
combine that
face.
with one of the many accusations thrown at him, then they got themselves a new P-pop villain in the making. But there's one thing in common between all those issues. They lack evidence.
Exactly.
There are a few exceptions though, but you can't say a person is arrogant just because he looks cool and badass. The dude is even a softie. He tends to
Yeah.
cry in interviews and emotional moments. His awkwardness as a kid is still there, and this TikTok clip says it all.
Me and you and me, just us and your friend Steve. Do 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 Steve. Do 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 Steve. Do 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 Steve. 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 Do 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 do
Let him
do
be.
Steve.
He's not harming anyone
Also,
by
you
being
can't
like
just
that.
call a person lazy just because you've seen a few clips of him sleeping. I mean, isn't it a result of him working too hard?
Exactly.
Being an idol and running your own clothing company at the same time is no joke. The dude only used to draw this aspiration, but now he made it happen. He managed to build a company that sold out merch in just minutes. It's insane. It's even rumored that his company is now worth more than $1 million.
Wow.
Whether it's true or not, it put an even bigger target on his back. And haters started coming up with even more ridiculous claims. Like accusing him of copying 2 K-pop music videos just because they have a similar vibe. This was easily debunked though, coming up with
I'm
even
sorry,
more
which music
ridiculous
videos?
claims. Like accusing him of copying 2 K-pop music videos just
Why
because
couldn't
they
it be
have
the
a
other way
similar
around?
vibe. This was easily debunked
Interesting.
though.
K-pop
If you want to
stands
check it out,
can
I made a
be
video about it, linked down
extremely
in the
toxic.
description. His main dancer position got also heavily criticized because of one single clip of him messing up on live TV. It was unfair in my opinion because Ken has always been consistent in his dance performances,
Oh
yet
gosh,
the
everyone
haters
makes
suddenly forgot
mistakes.
about how good he really is. Ken never fired back. Or did he?
Hades on the way. Nagtatago kapag sa likod ng dami ang kampapre. Huwag mo mahiyat, yeah. Labas ka na sa lunggot, yeah.
Wow.
Hindi naman ang sample kung paano May pagbabae.
So why does the poultry still
God, I
exist
love
and are
that.
still growing in numbers after all the bashing? Well, it's because he doesn't only have the alluring personality, but he also has the capability to back it up. Scratch
I
that.
think he's got a presence, but
Capabilities.
I never
What's
look
crazy
at him and
about
think he's
Ken is
got a
that
bad
he has already
attitude.
shown us enough talent, like his exceptional dancing and singing, that is enough to fulfill a main vocal role.
Saan darating ang mga salita na nanggagaling sa aming dalawa? Kung lumisan ka, huwag naman sana ika'y bumabit na, hindi magkawala. Aking sinta,
Oh, nice.
ikaw lang ang dahanan ay mundo.
Yet he still has a lot of secrets. I'm telling you, man, this guy is a living anime character.
He's so handsome.
Have you heard of an idol who is also a CEO? A dancer who is known for his aerial flips but never tells us that he can also breakdance.
Whoa.
A singer who writes and co-produces his own songs. A musician that plays guitar, keyboard, drums, and can even beatbox.
I think what I'm getting from this is when you're mysterious, when you don't overshare and lay your life out for everybody to ridicule, to critique, people seem to think that you're arrogant and that you've got an attitude. Actually, he could be shy, he could be reserved, he could be an introvert. I just don't think that anyone ever thinks of these sorts of things. They just jump on this like allegation of that he's got a bad attitude. I don't think out of anything that I've seen, I've ever thought that he's got a bad attitude. I think maybe at times he can be a little bit quieter. He doesn't necessarily always like to draw attention to himself. There's a time and a place for it. Like his solo stuff, for example, is definitely a place where he draws all the attention to himself. And he's working on it. Like he was a young guy having to get to grips with having a voice like that. And it's just a godsend that he met the other four members and that he met somebody like Pablo that could build his confidence up again. I'm just really grateful that these 5 individuals came together because I think it's evident, isn't it, watching all of this stuff, that the 5 of them needed one another.
A fashion influencer. A man who plays sports like basketball, billiards, volleyball, badminton, table tennis,
And I'll tell you, there is also a K-pop idol who has a similar feel, and he often gets accused of very, very similar stuff. And it's got something to do with that look. He kind of looks like him as well. But it's to do with that look. It's about being mysterious.
boxing, and sepak takraw with decent
And
proficiency.
Christianity.
A
In
skater
capital
boy,
letters.
an artist, a philanthropist, and most especially, a man of faith. I initially thought that the Superior Sound brand was all about him, but I was quickly proven wrong when I found this Bible verse underneath his Bulan CD, Hebrews 1:5-14. The entire passage is lengthy, but it all boils down to Christ being the superior of all beings. I mean, all of us have different religions, some don't even have one. But I just respect people like him who stand firm behind their beliefs. As of today, Ken has established himself as an arguably the most successful P-pop idol and the richest among his co-members. And it's just the beginning. They're still on their way to introducing Filipino music to the world through the US as of the making of this video. And his group SB19 is the first one to ever do it. So what have we learned about Ken's story? For
He's
me,
amazing.
it was his persistence and willingness to take risks. Have you
Yeah.
ever noticed that sometimes it's your loved ones that said no to your aspirations? Because, they care about you. They don't want you to fail and all that. Do you know how many people have had visions, ideas, and huge career moves that they were about to do, but they allowed the word no to stop them? For all I know, you might be one of those people. The difference with Ken is that he never gave the power to the word no. It was his own grandma who tried to stop him, but he continued. Yes, haters exist, but he didn't reject his own ideas just because they rejected his ideas. Haters hate because they feel small when your ideas start turning into reality. He once said in an interview that success is the best revenge, so he stopped killing them with kindness. To this day,
Oh.
Ken has been torturing them with success.
I mean, even watching this, I still feel like I know nothing about him. Do you know? He has this aura of being a mystery. And I think he will always be like that. And I actually really like that. And he adds a certain aspect to SB19 as well, which is another thing to add on that never-ending list of things to love about them and to keep you hooked on them as well. He's a real hook, you know. Once you see him, you're like, what's this guy all about? And then by the time he leads you to the group, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm buried beneath these 5 members and all of these amazing songs and their talents and their vocals and their comedy, and there's just no end to it. Do you know what? He just seems like a really nice guy who went through a tough childhood, who didn't take no for an answer, just persisted to better himself, and never felt. I mean, just the fact that he approached Josh and said, I want to train with you, how does that show that he has a bad attitude? I mean, surely that shows that that's somebody who is willing to put their ego aside, despite being such a great dancer, great performer, and despite reaching the same levels that Josh was reaching at that point. I know that obviously Josh and that crew won, but being able to put that aside and being like, look, it's not ideal, but can I learn from you? Like, that's a fantastic attitude, I think, anyway. I'm really loving watching all of these, and I will continue. Thank you so much for recommending these and watching them with me. I hope that you had fun, and until I see you next time, take care. Stay safe. Bye.